All right, we are live. Welcome back, everybody. I am here with Cathoholicism from Instagram. His name is Brian. So say hi, Brian. Say hi to the audience.
Hey guys, what's going on?
So we're gonna be touching on a few dicey subjects that we have going on in the Catholic Church. We're gonna start off with Catholics in politics, just what we our thoughts on that. Then we're gonna be talking about Frank Pavone. Then we're gonna be talking about yoga pants. Then Vatican II, and then finally, we're gonna be we're gonna be going in depth with some of that stuff, and then like communion on the hand. And finally, we'll be picking out some other topics that we found interesting for the submissions that you guys sent on Instagram. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, Catholics in politics. Brian, what is your stance on like how Catholics should act in politics?
I think more often Catholics present themselves radically politically, either left or right. There's like leftist Catholics, there's right wing Catholics, and we can kind of get in a trap of being on bandwagons and whatnot, where we start going along with things that aren't necessarily Catholic teaching, or we can neglect things that are Catholic teaching. We will sacrifice one aspect of the faith, for uh, something based. Like on the right side, we'll pick one thing, and then on the left side, we'll be like, we don't have to do that.
Mm.
Uh, one of the things that I think is very important is conservation. I want the earth to be beautiful. I want I want us to take care of the earth. And there's a lot of debate whether or not mankind contributes to harming the earth and the ecosystems and everything that we depend on. So I mean, aside from that, I don't see any problem in keeping nature beautiful, and I think that's something that conservatives should kind of you know take back, so to speak. You know.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. I mean, I definitely lean right. I'm not I don't my allegiance is obviously not to these secular ideologies within like a conservatism that has been sprouted from the American history. My allegiance is more to well, it's totally to the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
If conservatism will aid it, then all right, well, I'm going to go in with that, right? Whichever
Hmm.
aids the church best, because like that's pretty much I think that's like the attitude a lot of conservatives have nowadays, is that they are they're more like they have more of an allegiance to the means of how like things have been always done versus to the ends of actually conserving a nation. And for us Catholics, I would say that like our priority is essentially to evangelize and bring Catholicism to the culture. So, and like that's the ends that we want to get to. Obviously, we don't want to have to use any morally evil taxes to do that, right? But if there is like some like secular stuff that like is like, oh well, maybe maybe we should not be like the enemy in this aspect that like doesn't have anything to do with morality, then it's like, well, like no, like it's just, if it's fine and there's nothing wrong with it, and then we can use it to further our ends, then yeah, let's use it.
Yeah, I get really irritated a lot of times because we will if you've ever studied or read about Catholic social teaching, um, if you describe what's within it to people on the right, they think you're a communist. And if you describe it to people on the left, they'll call you like a fascist or whatever, because you're like traditionally minded when it comes to social things. But my wife was distracting me. I'm sorry.
No, that's sweet. That's sweet. So yeah, I think I know what you mean, because I know like it really the you actually put it in such a great way, because you go to the like college campuses, and of course it's either like on the left side of things you have like totally no, like they're totally afraid of authority. They're totally like no authority, no, like we want a democracy and whatnot, which is technically an authority in of itself, but because the authority of the mob. But then you have the people on the right, and it's like they've been so conditioned by libertarian propaganda that it's just like, oh no, small government, like the government should not help its people at all or whatever, or just make sure that it doesn't get in its
Mhm.
way. But it's like, no, the government's supposed to help people. It's there to serve the people, right? And
Yeah.
so essentially, the best way we want to serve it is to bring the gospel to them. So I think that it's a very anti-conservative stance for a lot of conservatives to have right now. That is just like this small government idea, because that really is just an idea of just libertarianism, which is I don't see the whole live and let live. I mean, if you see some woman that is um getting, some crime is being enacted on this woman, she's maybe like getting sexually harassed, you're not just gonna be like, oh, live and let live, whatever, like you're like, not my problem. No, you're gonna be like, you're gonna exercise the power that you have to stop that from happening, right? That like, so within that extreme example, we can already see that, like, no, clearly power should be used for good, and to do something, to advance to advance good. What would you say about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, no, it's our responsibility. It's definitely our responsibility to take the lessons that we get from the Bible, from Scripture, and from the church, and try to apply that to, making civilization somewhat more bearable than it currently is, for sure. Um, and we already see a lot of evidence of that having happened in the past anywhere, the Catholic Church has contributed a lot to the way our world functions. You know.
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, I believe, Catholic Church was the first to like start like hospitals, like hospitals, charities, stuff like that, universities.
Hmm.
That's what I heard. Yeah. The like now with the thing about, like the reason I always emphasize so much on, the policies is because that's essentially what we should be supporting in the end. Some people, like you said at the beginning of what you're talking about, I totally agree that some people end up how do you say it? Like, they become fanatics of certain people.
Yeah,
And so,
fanaticizing,
fanaticizing, yes. I think that's how you say it. So yeah, they end up doing that, and I think that's like, first off, that's really flirting with the lines of like idolization, and like looking for a man, for a mortal to save you. And don't get me wrong, I'm not like one of the types to be like, oh no, like the only hope is Jesus. Well, technically he is the only hope, but like, the only way that we can, there's no point in doing politics, just go and like, just go and try to evangelize and whatever. But it's like, which fails to recognize that, the church can be aided by the politics. But yeah, like I also draw the line within like being like, yeah, well, you should be caring about politics. You shouldn't also be like you shouldn't idolize it, right?
Hmm. Right.
Yeah.
No, we've got to make sure that we don't develop any sort of cult of personalities or whatever. A lot of times, I've been guilty of it myself. You find political leaders or whatever that you really connect with, and it's difficult not to put your hope and faith in some man or some system, but eventually it's going to disappoint you, and then you feel like a fool. Feel like a dang fool.
Yeah, there is a lot of black pills that we've had in the past. So yeah, no, definitely. That's why, no, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Of course, always be optimistic, because in the end we do win. But yeah, any other remarks you would want to say about anything that Catholics should like be like, how we should act around politics?
I think that we should practice a lot of we should reserve our opinions and how we respond to things, and not be too reactionary, because there's a lot of times that we don't have uh, the full picture of what's going on, immediately. And people are always wanting like immediate reactions to things. They want answers like now,
Yeah,
or because we're in like an instant society now.
yeah. Instant pleasure, instant dopamine. Yeah, that reminds me of that. Yeah,
Hmm.
no, the thing that's one thing I want to add on before we move on is the reactionary stuff. There's some people in the right wing that have been that have been kind of trying to identify with the reactionary archetype. And I see some Catholics doing this as well, which is kind of a I'm not totally against totally against just being a contrarian, because of course we do want to be contrary to that which is evil, but if there is good that's being promoted in the mainstream, to be again, to put your allegiance in just contrarianism is just like, no, your allegiance shouldn't be there, right? It's like, only if you have to, but if it's not, then like then you don't have to be doing it. You don't have to be trying to find the new thing to be contrary to. So
Right.
I definitely think that like Catholics should practice moderation when it comes to those things. Very strict moderation. But yeah, let's move on to Frank Pavone getting laicized by the Vatican.
Sure.
So
Before we do that, could you just pause my video or take it off for just like a second? I've just got to check one thing, if you don't
go ahead.
mind, and then you can tell the people about it, catch them up to
Yeah,
speed.
for sure, for sure. So for those that don't know, Frank Pavone, he got laicized, which means he got him being a priest, that the Vatican pretty much removed him of that title, and so now he's not a priest anymore, from what I understand. So what did he do? Like there's a lot of people on the the more liberal side of Catholics that are saying, well, that was well deserved. He was pro MAGA, pro Trump, and whatever. And then you have the right side of the more right leaning Catholics saying that, like, oh, that was terrible. Like they have like that's not, like, some people say that it's not justified, or that like they've been lying about that or whatever, and the Vatican officials are terrible for doing that. And like to look at these both sides, the right side also likes to mention that, like, oh, like they this guy has been laicized, but what about Father Martin, or the German priests in Germany that are preaching heresy and whatever. Like you have those two aspects, right? And there is truth to both of them. Obviously, I'm not saying that I'm like a liberal or anything. Clearly, I'm sure that if you've seen my videos, you know very well that I'm not a liberal. And if you've seen my videos, you also know that, again, like I just described in this video earlier today, that I'm in this live stream earlier right now, that I am not fully, I don't have full allegiance to just being a contrarian, being like a conservative, being right wing or whatever. Like if there's a chance where tradition and conservatism can improve, then let's be progressive about it. Not progressive in the sense that it's like, let's start introducing let's start changing marriage to what we want or whatever. No, like that, obviously that's totally different. I'm talking about like progressing in the church's advancement, because like a lot of people like are really against, like are really solidified on wanting to hold tradition, but it fails to recognize that there are some traditions that were better off getting improved. Like one of the biggest examples of this is confession. Right now, it's pretty common to have it one-on-one with the priest in a closed box, right? The priest can't even see your face, you can just hear your voice, and you confess like that. That's not how it was in the past. In the past, in like the early church, it was done in front of the entire chapel. Like that was the norm for the church. So like imagine you're confessing your sins to the entire chapel, to your entire to everybody there. Yeah, I don't know how people used to do that, because frankly for me, I'm very embarrassed about that stuff. But yeah, so like, not like, whenever we do want reform, we do want progression. It's just that when we hear those words, reform or progressivism, we it reminds us of all the liberals that are trying to like advance degeneracy. It reminds us of all the what you call it, all the Protestants that really that started their own faith instead of staying in the church to reform it, because that's what they did. It wasn't a reformation, it was a revolt. So when we talk about this stuff, right, there's always some truth to wanting to progress things versus wanting to hold solidify traditions. So you can't always go radically on one side. You must always have allegiance to the church and what the church decides. So let's check if Brian's back. Brian, you good?
Yeah, I'm good now.
All right, awesome. So anyways, yeah, what happened with Frank Pavone? He got laicized. Apparently the Vatican states that he was found guilty of blasphemous communications on social media and of persistent disobedience of lawful instructions from his diocesan bishop. He was given ample opportunity to defend himself and had several chances to accept his bishop's authority, but had not done so. So, Brian, what do you think about this?
Well, it's a sucky situation because, to an extent, he's obviously like more of an ally to. us, then he is an enemy. Yet you have a situation here where someone is just continuously disobedient, or just not going about things the right way. Uh, it can cause scandal, and one of the biggest things about being Catholic is being obedient. As a bride of Christ, we're supposed to be obedient. You want an obedient wife. You're supposed to be obedient to the husband, Christ. And as laity, we're supposed to be obedient to the church. And if someone tells you to shut it down, you got to shut it down. I don't know, but that's kind of, there's a lot of rumors and things, and there's a lot of stuff in the media that I'm not necessarily as fact or fiction or spin or hype or whatever. So I mean, I'm not condemning Father Pavone to hell or anything, but
Yeah.
uh, if you mess around, you're gonna find out, and it's a sucky situation. But I also, the major story was that he placed a an aborted child on an altar. It might have been a table that he has used for mass,
It
or it
was a
might have
table
been
that looked like an
yeah,
altar.
yeah. So that can be blasphemous, and a lot of people are arguing about what you can and can't put on an altar. And I read his transcript where he was talking about it, and apparently he learned about this from the media. Like, he hadn't been contacted directly or anything, supposedly. And so I don't know, the whole thing's just a big mess. But it's just bad optics. I mean, we've got like saints. We've got saint bones and relics and things in altars. Like altars, they're sacred things, and I can understand someone putting like the bone of Saint Francis or something in an altar or whatever, but
Mhm.
placing an aborted fetus on an altar or a table, like you said, it's a table. It's just it's bad optics. It looks bad for everyone involved, and I don't know. It's just weird. It's a weird thing to do. I don't think that I would be able to do that in a million years personally.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
just I can't even imagine doing that. But I heard someone told me that it was like an aborted fetus that he was supposed to like bury properly, like give a proper burial to or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know. It's a weird situation. Like, where does one, like, how do you even acquire that? Like, who brings that to you? I don't know. Whole
Yeah, that's
thing's very strange to me. And
I mean,
I don't, the biggest thing is that I don't like that, this corpse was sensationalized and, used politically or whatever. Like, political messaging, propaganda, I'm totally down with propaganda. And you can post like, you know, artist renditions of things all day, or like memes or whatever, or like those little model fetuses where they hand them out to people to hold and stuff. But like, having an actual dead body, that's pretty dark. I don't
yeah, no,
know if
I
it's
mean,
necessary.
even just like hearing about it, like the fact that he did do it, according to reliable sources, like that's just it just sounds wrong. You
Yeah,
think about it, and it's like that can't be right. And the
yeah.
more you think about it, like you just said, like how do they even get it? It's like it just makes it more of a dark situation. It's
Yeah, the
just
whole the whole thing just starts to stink a little bit. I don't know. I
now
mean, it's
here's
just
Here's what I
it's
found
not
from one of the Catholic sources that I've been looking at, because I've been looking at several sources because I don't want to, I want to make some Catholic sources are like totally biased against it. Some I still have
right.
yet to see some Catholic sources that are like totally against it, but this was one that was, I believe, was pretty like objective about it. Was pretty, not really, didn't really show much bias. So this one talks about, like, it reports that apparently uh Frank Pavone did get suspended by his bishop back in 2011 for disobedience, for like a kind of like a tussle between him and the bishop. Then in
Right.
2016, like we just talked about, he placed the body of a dead baby on a table resembling an altar, upon which he sometimes offered mass. 2 years ago in 2020, his diocese made a statement mentioning how various social media postings of Pavone were not becoming of a Catholic priest. So this kind of makes me think, like, there's a lot of people that are criticizing the Vatican statement that, like that found Pavone guilty of blasphemous communications, and like that he had ample opportunity. They're like, I think there were people that were saying, like, what opportunities, like he didn't even he wasn't even let known about this until like recently, right? But you look at all his, we can say they could count as transgressions. We look at all these transgressions of his past, and it's just kind of logical to be like, well, yeah, like the most recent thing that I mentioned, like in 2020, where his diocese made a statement mentioning how various social media postings of Pavone were not becoming of a Catholic priest. That in itself, it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, 2 years to like stop doing that stuff. So to me, it just kind of seems like, especially like a priest that isn't up to date with what his diocese is doing, or posting or whatever. That just kind of sounds a
Yeah.
little, maybe not like so accurate to me. So with all that past and all that context, it just seems to me like a very, very consistent case of disobedience, which, as you
Yeah.
said, is like the most important things that Catholics should be. Because I mean, obedience is like very rooted in humility, or humility is very
Mhm.
rooted in obedience, and humility is perhaps the greatest roots of virtue of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been reading Dark Knight of the Soul, and I've just started reading it like in the past couple of days, and I don't know, the first few chapters really talk about that sort of topic with obedience, disobedience, and pride and arrogance and stuff. Like Satan, he'll fill us up with spiritual. Um, Piety and stuff, like a false kind of piety where we, our pride and our ego swells and stuff, and we think of ourselves as saints and stuff, and we have like this presumption about, being on the right side of things and like being infallible and things like that. And then we get struck down like immediately,
Yeah.
like it's a dangerous game to play. But I personally have known of um, priests that have been laicized um, because of like smaller things they've done, like things that aren't as big and controversial as what we've discussed, and they they were just like cut right off, and it
Mm.
wasn't it wasn't a big show about it or anything. I think the only reason why this is such a big show is because he's such a a
Pro life advocate.
influential figure. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a big figure politically.
Yeah. I think I think, yeah, that really is a huge reason why that this is like made such like big news, I think. Yeah, I mean, and like, don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm very pro life, Brian, I'm sure you are too, right? As Catholics, we're supposed to be very pro life, but there's always a way to go about it charitably, and there's a way to go about it incorrectly. I mean, after all, Jesus does say to, like, or at least the Bible, I don't know where it says it in the Bible, but it does, we are called to teach, teach kindly, not to revile. Revilement is a sin, and that is to
Hmm.
teach abusively. So when you're teaching abusively, that's honestly doing more harm than good. So I've read some of the tweets that Frank Pavone has stated in his Twitter, and I look at that and I'm like, could have been worded better, my guy. So that's kind of what I
Yeah.
gonna get from
No,
that.
he. I mean, he says things that like my dad says. I mean, I'm not gonna like totally damn him or anything, but like if I were like a public figure, priest or whatever, I might try to be just a little bit more diplomatic about things.
Yeah.
A little more wordy and a softer approach, just so that like people have a chance of listening and they don't get pissed off immediately. I can't imagine. like the sort of reaction that mothers, that have uh, gotten abortions or whatever. Like, what are they supposed to do with that? With a aborted fetus on the
Yeah.
table? Like, is it, like who is the message appealing to? Is it really helping people, or is it just preaching to like the echo chamber? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Big. Yes. Most definitely. That's sometimes what I try to like think about. I'm like, am I making a video for the people that are just gonna that I can just be more and more like extreme so I can get a more people that already agree with me, or am I making stuff that maybe somebody that doesn't agree with me could be maybe see my point and maybe change their minds, right?
Yeah, social
Usually.
media is a nightmare regarding that. It is so difficult to reach new audiences. Um, I don't know. It's just tempting. It's tempting to edge post. It's
To
just, you
edge
just wanna,
post.
you just wanna so bad,
You just want to
but
what?
you,
You
you gotta,
cut out a little bit there.
you just want to burn it all down so badly, but you gotta be a good boy.
I've never you gotta be a good. I've never heard of the term edge post. I've heard of like Fed posting, but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
not
Fed
edge
Fed
post.
posting, edge posting, just. And I fall for it myself. I do it. I piss people off. I got to go to
Yeah, me too.
confession because I scandalize and stuff. And it's challenging. Sometimes, sometimes I feel like I'm going to be damned because of my social media, but I don't know. We just got to work it out somehow.
I've
It's no easy task.
I've I always get like whenever I'm about to comment something, I always get like in the back of my mind, I always think of the part where it says you will be you will be condemned by your words. And so like whenever I comment something, I'm like gotta make sure that I like it, or whenever I see something online, I gotta make sure that I'm like, sticking to that. Like, would I feel comfortable saying this in front of Jesus, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like kind of like trying to put it in that perspective. So, or even like in
Hmm.
front of like I don't know, like my parish priest or something like that. So, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
any other? Oh, right. I want to talk about also touch like last thing on the Frank Pavone situation. Some people are saying that like uh you know they realize that the Frank Pavone situation is justified, but they are upset because he got laicized, but not
Right.
some German priests or that are speak heresy or Father James Martin. Like, what do you think
I
about
don't have
that?
answers. I don't have answers for it. I do know that the is a little bit different with American priest versus German priest. A lot of the German church is kind of nationalized in a way.
Hmm.
Like I've got some Germans that I talk to, and they talk about how they have to pay like a special tax to be Catholic and stuff like that.
Yes.
And it's an entirely different game, and it's totally above my pay grade. I don't know what to say about it. I mean, like the the inner young pope in me just wants to be like excommunicate, excommunicate, but like I don't know what's going on over there. Like I've
Yeah.
got no idea how German law is and like the church status in Germany. And the same thing with China. Like China sucks, man. Communism sucks. I don't know like what to do about the church over there. Like
Yeah. Rough.
what is the Pope supposed to do? Is the Pope supposed to piss more people off? And then you go back to like the Second World War, and the Pope consistently tried to do what would lead to the least amount of harm. He made deals where he could, and then like Protestants, they take that and they run with it. They're like, oh, these Catholics are Nazis or whatever. And it's like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
If you look at the voting and everything, if you look at how things actually occurred over the span of the Second World War, you know that's not how it is. Catholic priests were executed, they were exterminated and stuff just alongside the Jews, and it's really just a cluster. And
Hmm.
for laity, especially me, like in Alabama, I'm not educated. I'm supposed to have like the opinion, not a opinion, but the opinion of how Pope Francis should handle the priests in Germany. you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, I have more opinion and a little more knowledge than like the average person, but to I'm just using myself as like a scapegoat for everyone else because that's like what people expect of everyone to have like an opinion on it,
Would you
and
say
it's
that when
just
you would you say that when you like when you encounter like a controversial problem that you that surrounding the church that you don't know like what exactly is going on, would you
yeah,
like
yeah,
are you
I
the type
call
of
it
person to default to assuming the worst about the church or assuming the best about the church?
it it fluctuates for me
Mhm.
personally. You know, there's days that I'm a doomer, there's days that I'm a bloomer, and I kind of like have taken on this thing I call the medieval grind set. You know, I pretend that I'm just like a peasant serf or whatever out in the middle of some crop working. And what am I supposed to know? What am I supposed to know about the papacy or whatever, or the College of Cardinals? It's just, there's times there's just times that people didn't really have much information. I like to play life in that kind of way. It's good to have information and fight error and heresy where you can, but occasionally you're not going to know anything, you know, and it's just better to reserve judgment for when you do have a little more information.
Yeah, real. Give me 1 second. My camera died. Hold on.
Your camera died. No. Well, good thing you got multiple cameras.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
There we go. Boom. Alrighty. We're not totally dead yet. But anyways, yeah. Well, that's something that I like to that I want to touch on. I when I found out I have a loved one in Germany. Um, when I found out that this person's grandparents like did not want to keep going to mass because apparently they tax you if you're Catholic. I was
Yeah.
like, bro, like, because one of them thought that like, oh, like the Catholic Church, this is like what the Catholic Church supports, like they're taxing you and all this stuff to you have to be Catholic if you have to get taxed if you're Catholic, right? But that's not a church teaching. That's not mandatory. That's just like how it is in Germany. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find it like
Yeah.
super tragic because like that's essentially
No, it
one of the
sounds
reasons why they
crazy.
had
It
to,
sounds crazy. And
yeah.
it's probably something that, you know, isn't so bizarre and strange in the rest of the world and the rest of human history, but as Americans, it's like, what? You guys have to pay a tax to be Catholic. That's insane, man. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Another sad aspect of it is that a lot of those European churches, um, a lot of the church buildings are owned by the state and sort of like, you know, rented out to the church for use or whatever. And I'm like, that's just crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy because that just like wouldn't work here.
Yeah, no,
People
nobody
would
would want to take
not be
that.
having it. Yeah.
Nobody would want to take that. Yeah, no, that's crazy. So yeah, no, that's yeah. I find that really tragic. So pray for Germany most definitely. Another any other country that's having similar laws like that. But what do you think about Father James, like the Father James Martin situation? Is that something else that you're just like don't really know the situation of as well? That you're just like that?
Well, you know, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I think, in my opinion, I've listened to some of the things that Father James Martin has said, and I've mocked him 1,000 times in the past, and I sort of repent of that because I don't want to just like mock some priest or whatever. I'd rather mock the ideas of a priest and like just, you know, not really mention the priest himself,
Yeah.
um, unless, well, like just in regards to memes. Like if a priest does something, I'll talk about the priest and the subject or whatever. But like um, some of the things he said, I've listened to, and he speaks in a way that he's not necessarily wrong about everything. It's like very thin ice. You know, it's very debatable, gray area kind of thin ice. The problem that I, in particular, have with him, or at least my perception of it, if he watches this. You know, like I'm totally down to get dinner with him and ask him some questions or whatever. Um, like I'm not calling for him to be burned at a stake or anything. I'm not gonna say anything like that. But like my perception of it is that it's a little dangerous because it seems like he leads people on. Like on Twitter, like people that are in the LGBT community, they'll be they'll be praising something that's very gay and very like pro gay or whatever,
Mm.
and he seems to like let it slide. And I feel like if you let such things slide too much, people get the wrong idea, and then you've got like an alternate Catholicism, you know, like a subsect of Catholicism where people think that like gay unions, like homosexual unions, are fine, like transgenderism is totally fine and stuff like that. And
Mm.
you know, these things aren't fine. It's in the catechism. And I remember we went to war with him on Instagram like years ago, and we would get people to like just comment like catechism and stuff like that, which that's off-putting to people. So I don't recommend doing that in that kind of way. Kind of try to help individuals. You know, you're not gonna end the LGBT movement by posting catechism. You need to go. Like we as people need to go, or the people listening need to go individually. You know, help people individually where they are. But like we
Yeah.
would post catechism verses, like paragraphs from the catechism and stuff, and they'd get like deleted on his account and stuff. So I don't really know what to make of him, because he might be trying to reach a really difficult group of people to reach, or he might be a total heretic. I have no idea. I wish I could talk to him and interview him, secretly, because uh, it's always it's always a concern of mine that these priests sort of have like a public message and then like a private message, and the private message is probably a lot more dangerous than the public messages. But
Maybe.
I don't have
Yeah.
proof of that personally,
Yeah.
so I don't
Interesting.
know. What do you think?
Yeah, Father James Martin. I don't really know too much of him. I just know that like he's like said some like cringe stuff. So,
Mm.
so like that's pretty much it. I'm kind of more of like the again, you know, I don't know if I think he really really flirts the line with like saying heresy. I don't know if he actually has said it before.
I No, I
Um,
agree with you definitely. And he's posted he has like a book, and on the cover of the book, I think it's Building a Bridge if I'm not mistaken, but he's like standing in front of like a LGBT like rainbow kind of color palette or whatever. And
yeah.
that alone can send the wrong message, like regardless of what it says. But then again, like he's trying to appeal to a particular group of people, so I don't know. Maybe it works, maybe not. Maybe it works, maybe not. I feel like I feel like teaching in general is just more watered down now. You know,
Yeah, I think that like
and
the thing with pride flags, this is actually really interesting because I know that in New York, I've had people tell me, or people like in New York or like in other liberal areas like California, they tell me that I thought the Catholic Church is against homosexuality, not homosexuals, because like people aren't identified by their desires, but it's against
right,
people that practice homosexuality and practice anal sex and all that stuff. Excuse my language for people that are watching, but
sodomy,
yeah, of sodomy,
sodomy.
right? Like it condemns that, right? But then they're like, well, why is there a pride flag in this
I
in
don't.
my Catholic
I've
church?
never seen it. I've never seen it.
Yeah,
In all of the Catholic churches, I was on. I'm Doing Great podcast,
yeah,
and Gina on there. She was mentioning something about like pride flags being in front of Catholic churches, or maybe it was a question somebody had during the live stream. I've never seen that. I've never witnessed that at a Catholic church ever. And I've might have seen like an article or something where like some Catholic priest and some liberal hellhole like puts a pride flag on the altar, something crazy like that. But personally, I've never witnessed a Catholic church flying a pride flag. I've seen hundreds of them. I've seen hundreds of them. So I just want to tell everybody, all right. I haven't personally seen it. There might be some churches out there that have it, but it's not nearly as bad as like the Presbyterians or the Anglicans or whatever,
Oh yeah.
the Episcopalians. They want to put the rainbow on like the entire church building. They want to just paint every brick rainbow, LGBT, you know, Q plus. Like
They're still in the
the
they're still in the
updated
first
flag.
covenant.
They've got the updated flags. They get like the monthly updated flag with the new stripe or the new symbol on it. I've never seen that with the Catholic Church though.
Yeah, me neither. I've never seen like in real life in person. I've never seen a Catholic church. At least I don't think so. I don't think I've ever seen a Catholic church with a pride flag. And again, and you live in Alabama. I will say like
Yeah,
your
it's
story is more
it's
believable.
it's pretty
I live
conservative
in
here, but
I
yeah,
live in Virginia. It is like
yeah,
it's
a little
more of a mixed,
questionable, a little
huh?
questionable now.
Yeah, it's more
Virginia,
questionable where
yeah,
I'm at, right? So like
yeah.
from what I'm getting here is that you have to really go to a very very down
Well,
bad place to
I
find
went
that.
to Long Island recently.
Huh.
I went to Long Island. I didn't see any of it on Long Island. Like nowhere. I didn't go to Manhattan. There might be something like that in Manhattan, but like Long Island, like Merrick and places like that, I didn't see it a single time. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure like again, I'm sure like these people like are not like lying that like they probably have seen
Yeah,
some,
they're
right?
outliers though. They're
But
outliers.
the thing
It's
like
not
the thing
typical.
here is like even if a Catholic Church has a pride flag, like I first off can already say like yeah like don't think they should be doing that at all, like the small minority that
No.
does that. But even though they have that pride flag on, it's like clearly it does send the wrong message and it is scandalous. But having a pride flag on the church isn't by it doesn't like there is nothing heretical about it. It's just a rainbow flag. It really just matters within the cultural context of what it actually is, because you can walk in there and if the priest still says like yeah, like don't practice homosexuality, don't practice sodomy, like you should, consecrate yourself to the Lord or whatever, then it's fine, like then it's fine. But I don't know if like that's this, like I don't know if, again, I don't know if it works, like to, invite,
Hmm.
People with a pride flag and then like you red pill them as soon as they walk in the door. I
Yeah,
don't know
no,
if that really works,
I
but
think it's very dangerous to do that kind of thing. I think churches should definitely not do it,
mm,
because it's a battle flag. It's a battle flag. They're fighting for that. When they put that flag up, it's not about love or respect of anybody. It's about being allies. It's a battle. It's warfare. It's cultural warfare, and they've got their little banner on and their little armbands. They're not red, white, and black, but it's the same thing. It's like it's a militant movement, and our churches should never fly that in front of their doors because you you start to become more of a kingdom of this world.
and it causes
And
scandal too.
yeah,
Yeah,
it is
so
scandalous. It's very scandalous. It
hmm
sends all sorts of people packing. Finding different churches, uh, going to Orthodoxy or Sedevacantists or something like that,
yeah.
only to find the same problems. Probably just on smaller scale because Catholicism's massive scale. It's the biggest. It is the biggest. If anybody else was as big as Catholicism, you'd see just as many problems and controversies or whatever. Catholicism's like it is the face of Christianity. It's the one that liberalism and leftists want to attack most. They hate it. They
I
absolutely
love
hate
that
it.
you said it is the face of Christianity.
Yeah, it's
Like
the
I was
face
like,
of
yo, let's
Christianity.
go.
Nobody else, no, the poster child, okay, is Catholicism. Absolutely. Globally speaking, right?
For sure,
People
for
don't think
sure.
about Catholicism here in Alabama so much, but globally speaking, if you ask ET, if you ask the aliens like,
If
"Hey,
you
what's
ask,
Christianity look like?" They're gonna show you a picture of Notre Dame and rosaries and Mary holding Jesus and a crucifix. It's gonna be
real.
very Roman Catholic.
Very true. So true. It's so true. Now, speaking of scandal, I'm sure we can move on from the Frank Pavone situation. But speaking of scandal, let's get into the talk about yoga pants. Now, as Catholics, I just want to start this off, kick this right off with modesty is a great virtue, and not just for women, but also for men too. You know, you hear a lot of Catholics talking about modesty online, but most of them, and I'm guilty of this too, we don't really talk much about modesty for men, right? And given there are some fair points as to why, because the female body, like it's a lot of parts of it are inherently sexual, whereas the male chest isn't sexual. Like that they're like that's one of the clear differences right there. So there is clear difference within biologies. But yeah, safe to say that I just want to kick that discussion off with that. But Brian, anyways, thoughts on yoga pants?
I hate them. I really do hate them, and I don't know. They're everywhere, man. It's everywhere. You have to constantly avert your eyes. And there was one day I remember vividly. Unfortunately, I went to confession. It was a beautiful mass. Everything was wonderful. I was just on the spiritual high. And as soon as I walk outside the doors, like a woman, it's almost like scandalous to even describe it, but like a woman with like short workout shorts and like a training bra or whatever. She just like runs right past the front doors of the church. And it's like literally a gigantic city. Run anywhere. Like if I was dressed like that, I wouldn't think for a second of running in front of the church doors. I'd combust into flames. I'd be thrown straight into hell if I did something like that. I don't know why she didn't fear that. She doesn't have the fear of God in her, I guess. But I hate them. I can't stand. I can't stand it, and it's all over the internet. I can't even open my phone. Like even if just default, you made a new account or whatever, you don't have like weird cookies or creepy cookies or whatever. It's just that's like the first thing they sell because sex sells or whatever. And I don't know, it's unfortunate. And then at the same time, like people back in the modest time periods or whatever, they didn't like work out like we do now. Like it wasn't like a thing where like women back then weren't like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym for 3 hours today or whatever. That was like never a thing. Like only after the overuse of seed oils have people like been obsessed with going to the gym. And so I don't know. It sucks. It really sucks. I wish that we could practice some decency or whatever. But like I personally sympathize for the woman that like doesn't want to dress in a burqa or like dress like a nun or whatever. Like I understand it, like I get that, but at the same time I just can't stand it. I can't stand it. I would like there were I don't know if you were around when Gold Pill was really active. He had like a show at yeah. So he was on Instagram and he had like a podcast and everything. I was I'm still friends with him. I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks, but like um he's a great guy. But we went on like a little mini pilgrimage up here in North Alabama. There's like this massive like Franciscan monastery kind of thing or whatever. And we went in and there's just like a woman with like tight pants and tight shirt or whatever. And like she had a veil on. Like you there's like reasonable hope that she was kind of pious or whatever. Like what kind of person even goes to such a service out in the middle of nowhere to begin with a veil? Like obviously there's some piety there, but like there's just like this cultural zation of like what is modest, what's immodest, and it's just it's going to be a lot of work. If we're ever to fix it, it's going to be a lot of work. It's not just something that we can do overnight. It's going to take some time to fix it for sure.
Well,
It
we
would
could we
it'd
could
be a good start to get the Kardashians offline though. If we could just throw them off the internet, we'd be moving forward.
I'm on the same page as you are. I was gonna say we could see an overnight change if we just instilled a regime that was in favor of our. Nah, I'm only
Yeah, no,
for legal reasons.
I
I'm joking. For legal
look,
reasons, I'm
look.
joking.
for legal reasons, what I'm about to say is a joke. I totally agree with you, and I wish I could, live to see such a day and age. But at the same time, that kind of idea terrifies me. Like going back to like the political discussion we were having earlier, if America became a theocracy right now, it'd totally be Protestant, and it'd be terrifying. It'd be a nightmare hellhole. And I personally like the occasional drink, or alcohol or whatever. I like to have icons and statues and stuff.
Yeah,
If we instilled a theocracy with America's current religious demographics, it'd be a Protestant, Southern Baptist, iconoclastic, prohibitionist hellhole. I'm not here for it personally. Like I'd rather try to like salvage democracy than have that personally. People are gonna hate
bro.
me
I'm not
for
even
it,
gonna
but
lie. That's actually like I've never heard of that take, but I actually 100% agree with it. Yeah,
yeah,
I think it probably would because I mean, like, not even for the alcoholic part, but because at that aspect, like it would essentially revert to back to where we are right now. I mean,
yeah,
America's
yeah, yeah.
roots are Protestant. They are,
Hmm.
that's kind of the red pill. Some conservatives don't like to take that. Like,
Puritanical.
some conservatives don't like to take the red pill that America was founded off of Christian virtue. However, it was also mainly founded off of specifically Protestants, like of mainly Protestants. So the fact that we were here at the state we are right now, it's like clearly, like the Protestants that were in power, this is how their country ended up as, right? So if we were just to install like a more of like an authoritarian Protestant government, all that would do is just give them like a round two in like the in this video game that is America, right? Whereas you look at Catholic theocracies that have been gone that have gone on throughout different time periods, and from what I see is that like one of the most prominent ones that I remember, which is Francisco Franco in the Civil War, in the
Yeah.
Spanish Civil War, is that it wasn't as if like because of his fault that they became to the country that they are now. It was more of the fact that like the people that succeeded him were different than what he espoused, and so
Yeah.
that was the
It was
result of
also
that.
next door to France, so it was
Yeah.
just a matter of time.
So it wasn't even the ideologies that were the problem. It was the fact that the people that had different ideologies succeeded him, whereas the people that
Yeah.
the same Protestant movement is the same coalition because a Protestant by definition is just somebody that it protests the Catholic Church. That encompasses
Mhm.
a wide variety of different denominations. So you can
Right.
see where there can be room to wiggle in and be like, well, actually, my Bible
But
says
like
this, and sneak in with
if we
their
became
stuff.
a Christian theocracy, and let's say we just like all across the board with it, it was just like just Christian, like not necessarily it de facto becomes like non-denominational, and if you want to, I don't know if you know anything about non-denominational churches, but they're kind of very like wide open when it comes to like dogma teaching, um, what they accept, what they don't accept, like um, culturally speaking, like Catholicism's kind of conservative leaning, Presbyterians are mostly conservative leaning or whatever, and then you've got like the libertarian sort of sector of Christianity, and that's like what non-denominational is, and that's what America would be if it was a theocracy. It'd be non-denominational because it's like such a melting pot, you know, and
Mhm.
it just wouldn't work out culturally. We
From
just
from
don't have the
my
culture here for it.
from my experience, there's only like a few non-denominational. Like I've met a lot of non. I was non-denominational myself before. From all the non-denominationals that I have met, only a small minority that I've met were actually like they would be cool if we instilled a Catholic theocracy. Everybody, like the rest of them were just we're just like, oh
Oh
yeah, like Roe v. Wade, cringe,
yeah,
or not cringe, but like Roe v. Wade. I mean, I don't really care about Roe v. Wade getting
yeah. They're like,
overturned, like.
oh, whatever. Like it's fine.
Yeah, they fall in line. They
It's
have a
not
lot in
me. It's
common with Christian
yeah,
anarchists. They have a lot in line with
yeah.
Christian anarchists, essentially.
Don't get me started on anarchy, man. It's I have I have to like resist the urge to be an anarchist at times, to be honest.
What? How?
Yeah,
You're
man.
Catholic.
it there's no political solution. It never will be. You know, like his kingdom is not of this world, and the older I get, the less faith I have in any sort of political system because it's just. I mean, I'm not about anarchy where like people just it's chaos and people just do whatever the heck they want or whatever. Um, I'm like, I don't even know if it's a proper definition of it, but like I'm just an anarchist in the sense that like there's no monarchy but God the Father, you know, and like
Yeah.
um, Jesus Christ is King, and it's just there's no hope without it. And eventually, things are going to be perfect and wonderful. We're going to have the perfect system, and it's going to be the new heaven and new earth. You know, it's going to be the end of times, after the end of times, the end of this age. And until then, things are just going to suck. Like even if I became theocratic dictator tomorrow, and the Catholic Church was like supreme and the United States or whatever, and I was the blessed monarch or whatever. I'd still suck at it. I'd screw up, man. I'd be King David. You know, King David was appointed by God. Like they're all appointed by God, but like King David, he was like, okay, you guys want a king? Here's King David. You know, he's gonna be so based and red pilled, and he killed Uriah. You know, he slept around and stuff. It's sucky, man. It's not gonna work out. It's not gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, I have enough faith to like, you know, things to function, you know, and be like civil and stuff. I have hope that maybe we can have a renaissance in culture and morality and stuff. I do have that, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's just gonna suck. It's gonna suck.
Here's what I think. I'm very optimistic about the future. Actually, surprisingly, a lot of conservatives nowadays are very black pilled, but I'm
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
very
I don't
optimistic.
mean to be black pilled.
You kind of gave off the black pill vibes.
No. I do not accept black pill. Okay, because Saint Ignatius, for example, Saint Ignatius, he was talking about how I wouldn't say this is a black pill, but the Romans were going to persecute him. They were going to execute him, and he was like, "Let my flesh be ground up to be made the perfect, you know, host or whatever, right? The perfect offering to God or something along those lines." That's not black pilled, you know. He's white pilled. I'm white pilled because I know, biblically speaking, that Christ is the only way, and that like no man is gonna like perfectly
Yeah,
set that in motion. Like
of course.
it's just not gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like that. But by the sense of
I'll have
black pill, I
some
guess I meant
optimism
like
with you. All right.
I meant
I'll have
optimistic in
some
the sense that
optimism.
like I, I meant in the optimistic in the sense that we could still see ways that that any of these political actions or movements could help aid the church in some way. Because what the way I see it, right? I'm like I've thought about this. I'm like, what's the point of taking power and instilling our laws if you know if still like in the future it's probably going to go down again, the empire will
Yeah,
be
yeah,
destroyed, like what's the point of that, right? I've thought about that, but I'm like, well, then I question. I'm like, well, what's the point of what's the point of being pro-life then if we're
yeah,
not
yeah.
like we
I
know that
agree.
there's gonna be you know what I'm gonna say, right?
I have children, so like
Yeah.
I want to fight for a better future. I don't want to just let things suck, get worse for them, you know. Uh, I think I am kind of an optimist sometimes. I think sometimes I imagine people waking up from this bleak nightmare that we're currently living in, and things improving, you know, at least a little bit to where it's not just completely psychotic and crazy outside. It's like a clown world right now. Maybe it'll get a little bit better. I sure hope so.
Well, remember the night is darkest before the dawn.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's pretty dark.
I don't know. I think we're still like looking back in history. I mean, this is not the worst that the world has been before.
It can
Like,
get a lot worse. It can get
yeah,
a
it can get
lot
way
worse.
worse. We are living in
Yeah, yeah.
very privileged times
I
right now, even
agree.
though like
And
it's terrible. Now,
I'm
here's what I want
happy
to say
that
though. Like,
I'm happy that you know that. Some people act like ancient times were just like baller or whatever. It's like, no, it kind of sucked back then too.
looking at history will
Yeah.
open your eyes. Looking at the state of the world will open your eyes, just how it will open many people's eyes to Catholicism as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, like that's what like the thing with the politics, right? I'm like that's why I think that everybody's like mission right now, right? Even if it's not directly political, I think that every Christian that has an interest in politics, right? We're on a mission to try to at least aid the people that we can while we live and trying to do our part in the period that we live in. And if it gets destroyed later on, then that'll be the responsibility of future generations. But right now, we
Well,
have a responsibility to the people that we
yeah, we
have
have
right now.
from the catechism, we have a moral duty. You know, it's like a
Hmm.
duty to vote. Like we need to vote um, based on our beliefs and stuff. We need to vote what's going to benefit mankind. You know, it would be negligent for us not to vote. You know, it's just stupid. We got to vote. We
Yeah.
definitely got to vote. It's a
Hmm.
moral obligation.
We got to start posting those
For
we got
yeah,
to start posting those corny pastels. Go, why you need to go vote today.
yeah. Well, I mean, not just voting, but like just at least taking like uh, action, trying to improve our situation. And you can do that a million different ways or whatever.
Oh
And
yeah, most definitely. That's
you can vote
it.
for anybody. You know what I mean? Like you could practically vote for like anybody. The church just thinks that you should take advantage of that right while you still have it.
There's also the non-negotiables. Yeah, like for example, like some people in my chapel, they have a bit of a strong they are a little off put because they know of my opinion that I don't think a certain group of people should vote. And
Hmm.
because of that, they're like, like, oh, so you don't think they should vote like now? And I'm like, no, like they should still vote, and it's not because I'm like, and it's not because I'm just like, oh, like I hate these people or whatever. It's just because it's like, oh, it's for the better, right? I would want to see just how I would be like totally just against anybody voting if I were to be a monarchist or whatever, for
Yeah,
legal
yeah.
reasons. I'm not
I think I
admitting to
think
that.
I think universal voting is definitely kind of like a stinker, to be
Yeah,
honest, because like I mean just interacting with the general person outside, and I don't mean to be like I've got an ego, whatever, but like I don't mean to be totally egocentric, but like these people are not sharp. They're not sharp, and Um, it terrifies me because they don't know what they're voting for, and they don't even look at it. Like some female or whatever on TikTok told them to vote for this person or whatever. They're just gonna go do it because they
yes,
worship that
queen.
female, and it's like, come on, dude. Like this sucks, man. I can't have it.
Yeah, it's like
Whatever.
I believe there was like a quote saying like one of the biggest arguments against democracy is just like talking to the average voter. It's like like
Yeah.
you expect this person
They
to
don't
know
have
how
any
to run like
collateral, man. They don't have any collateral. I'm voting
yeah.
not for myself, but for my children, and their
That's
future and their children. I'm voting because I have a house and stuff, and what happens in my community is actually important to me. I can't just go from one pod and apartment building to like another city and be fine. Like I'm invested in my location, and I'm invested in my children's lives, and like I should have a right to vote. But like some of these people out here that are just like, you know, uh, unmarried, no children, no property, like no prospects or whatever. I mean, God bless them. It sounds like it's horrible, but like I just, like
they don't have any
what do you
effect.
have to
They
lose? You don't have
yeah.
anything to lose in the game. You can make all the poor choices. It just, I don't know. That's
It's
the
it's
biggest
not fair,
problem
yeah.
I have with it.
it's not just there's no justice in that like people like that can vote, but
Yeah.
like people like you have a lot to lose, and there's like millions
Hmm.
of people like you that have like family, property, all this stuff that you have to lose, and yet your vote matters just as much as some, I don't know, pothead that hasn't done any of what you've done in your life, doesn't have a family, doesn't have any property, doesn't have invested anything into the
Yeah.
actual country itself, has a
It's
laptop
kind of
job that can
it's
just like
just kind
fly
of
to another
insulting.
country.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
injustice. Yeah.
yeah. And
So
I would vote for things that would greatly benefit that person. I guarantee it. So,
yeah, real. Literally,
oh,
like I want that like pothead to drop the weed, to pick up
yeah,
his
man. I want
life,
him to succeed.
to
I
get a
want him
family.
to
That's what we want.
excel. Yeah,
We want to
absolutely.
ban yoga pants. We want to do all
Trying
those
to
good.
help you. Trying to
I'm
help you,
trying.
man.
Now, here's the thing about
Trying
yoga.
to,
Like, I didn't touch on this, but like the thing about yoga pants, they're not inherently bad. I mean, like if you just wear them
yeah,
under like a skirt or something, like that's fine, right? I'm not gonna be like
yeah,
against that.
yeah.
But if like you're whipping it
Or like
out
around
and
the
like you're
house
like
or
practically
something.
naked
Yeah,
outside, it's like okay, no, like
yeah,
nah,
yeah,
come on, get out of
yeah,
here, bro.
yeah.
Like,
And like obesity is like rampant in America, and like I'm just
yeah,
saying,
rough.
dude, just don't, just don't do it.
You're gonna
Like
take away my seed oils, please? No. And I'm like, it's for your own
it's rough,
good.
man. It's rough. People, well, like they've got like potato sacks for legs or something. It's bad. We've got to do better. We've got to do better.
We
We've
will
got
do
to help
better.
our fat brothers and sisters. Got to help them.
I feel really bad for it because it's like a lot of the things that you have to do with your self esteem really comes from like the way your body looks. That's why
Yeah.
like your body is very important. Like I was watching The Chosen, and like one of the apostles was telling the other apostle like oh, why do you work out so much, right? And then it's like you got to focus on your spirituality, right? And like the other apostle was like, well, what happens to your body if you eat like a whole handful of poison berries? How's your spirituality gonna be feeling there, right? Because and like that's the
Yeah.
truth. It's like you have to focus on both. Your body does impact your soul to a huge extent.
Hmm.
So it's, I mean, there again, sins of the flesh. It's huge. So I really wish for like that's why I don't like to trash on people that are fat so much, because I understand that like they really do need encouragement. Although weirdly, I've seen some like people that are more on the overweight side like respond well to like comedians like Bill Burr that just totally
Well,
trash
yeah.
on fat
No, like
people.
I'm currently, like I've taken a little pause for the holidays or whatever, but like I'm wanting to improve. I gained a lot of weight when my wife first got pregnant, like the first time around, and I'm still suffering from that. There was a period of time that I wasn't as active, like walking and stuff, taking walks during work, and I'm trying to do better about that. And so like if I ever like crack jokes or anybody on anybody, I had plenty of jokes cracked on me. I crack jokes on myself. It's gonna be okay. Uh, One thing you can do is just stop eating so much bread and like sugars and stuff like that. Like, I mean, some of it is good or whatever. You want to like somewhat of a balanced meal, I guess. Like some people will argue that, but like if you cut out like just certain things from your diet for just like a little bit, you'll drop so much weight. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Like when I first started dieting, I lost like 15 pounds like in the first week or whatever, like 10 to 15 pounds. And I saw a woman like jogging on the side of the street like a couple of weeks ago, and she was like she was a big girl, and I'm just thinking like if I were her personally, like I'm not an expert or dietitian, but personally, I'd probably try to like diet and lose some weight like first, and then go run, because that can't be good for your knees. Like running around with that much weight on sidewalks, dude. People were not meant to run on concrete. They weren't. Absolutely not. You can't convince me that like running on the sidewalk is good for you. I won't do it. Not in 100 years.
Yeah, running on the grass just feels more natural to me. I
Yeah.
personally like I've
Hmm.
gone running barefoot before, like on grass, and it just feels amazing. The thing with like food, when I like look into like all the diet and whatnot, I feel like a nutritionist, but I'm like, dude, you don't have a degree. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like if
Yeah.
you go to a nutritionist,
Like
they
slow it
probably like
down. Yeah.
feed yourself with veggies and like eat these foods, but it's just so simple. Just
Yeah.
eat animal based. That's it's really that
Yeah,
simple.
I that's what I did. Like personally, that's what I did. Um, I had dairy as well, and like some vegetables or whatever, but for the most part, I stayed away from like breads and pizza and like French fries and fried food in general, and sugars like processed sugars. Stayed away from that stuff, and it just like the weight started dropping off of me. Like real fast. Like I was able to wear jeans, pants I hadn't been able to wear in like a couple of years. It's crazy. And that happened like within a week or two. Like it's just try it out. If anybody takes anything from this and you're fat and or overweight and you're uncomfortable in your own skin, just try not to eat. Try not to eat. Try to change what you're eating, and I guarantee success. I
Let's
guarantee
get back to fasting on
it.
Fridays. Let's get back to fasting on Fridays, like the
Right.
traditionals used to do it. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, we can move on. I think we covered yoga pants to a great extent. Got kind of did little segues here and there. I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh
From
well.
health and to monarchy. That was pretty, or from monarchy to health. That was a pretty good slide. Vatican II. What do you what are your thoughts on Vatican II?
Vatican II is that, at times there's a lot of in the spirit of Vatican II or like Vatican II, like cringiness or, like boomer styled things, or like sometimes it seems like Vatican II kind of like stopped like being Vatican II in the 1960s. You know what I mean? Like it's supposed to be like this, like, it was like the Vatican too was supposed to be sort of like a conversation with culture and whatnot because culture was changing so rapidly. But I don't know. Sometimes it seems like it's like stuck in the '60s, personally. But I'm not going to Vatican II bash too much. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what God's intention of Vatican II is. Uh, when you're face to face with it. If I had the perspective that the angels have or whatever, and I'm able to see a little bit more with a bird's eye view, or I don't know. Maybe I'd have a little more input of what God plans to do and how to use Vatican II. I mean, um, I'm gonna be obedient to my church. You know, personally, I like tradition. I like liturgy. I like the fact that Latin Mass is available. But like, I have no problem going to Novus
Your mic
Ordo.
is a
Novus
little your mic is
Ordo,
a little weird.
a little weird. Is it
Yeah,
still weird?
I think you're fine. I think you're fine.
Okay. I don't have any problem going to Novus Ordo. Like most of the time, I do go to Novus Ordo. There's really pretty, like more traditional cathedral parish that I go to, and it's wonderful. But I do love to go to Latin Mass as well, and I also love Eastern traditions. And a lot of people don't know this, but Vatican II benefited traditionalism for Eastern Catholics. Like Melkites, Maronites, Byzantine Catholics. They had a little bit of a help from Vatican II, from what I've heard, and Pope Francis especially. But I don't know. I mean, Vatican II is a little terrifying. I think to a lot of people, it's terrifying. But I think the Industrial Revolution and like modern society and stuff just changed so drastically in like the past 100 years that we often use Vatican II as a scapegoat because we're, Catholic. I don't think everything that's wrong with the world is in relation to Vatican II. Like I think a lot of that stuff was just bound to happen. Pope Leo the 13th, I think, had the encounter with Satan supposedly, and he was like, "I'm going to destroy the church within 100 years or whatever." You know, Satan's throwing he's throwing a lot of dodgeballs. He's throwing a lot at the church and at the world and humanity in general. And I don't think that like the only bad thing or whatever. The only factor is Vatican II. A lot of trads act like if we got rid of Vatican II, everything would like just revert and we'd live in like some sort of like monarchist, Christo-fascist like utopia or something. It's like, I don't think that would happen, personally.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. There's it's very very easy for people to just want to put all the blame on one thing because it's simple and it's easy.
Yeah.
However, however, to be when you're completely honest and you look at, like we've talked about history and, historical things in the past, right? When you look at all this, right, and all the with the full context, you see that it wasn't just a change in Latin Mass, a change from Latin Mass to the Novus Ordo. You see that it wasn't just, like this new council, right?
Yeah.
You can't just tie it to one thing. You look into this and you're like, okay, well, the communists were infiltrating the education system, the government in America, and then in other countries of the world as well. There's a lot of different things going on in the political side and the education side throughout these entire places. So that's not the church's fault. However,
Yeah.
coincidentally, it also happened with this new Vatican Council that did change, some substantially some things, right? But to pin it all on that, or to even say like that's like the root of where it all started, it's just frankly not an honest perspective looking at the full context of what goes on globally in history. So that's really what I obviously am, I very much appreciate tradition. I mean, like, whenever I go to my Novus Ordo, I still kneel in front of the priest to take communion by the tongue. Um,
Yeah.
and I really wish more Catholics would do that as well, right? But again, I'm not gonna be like, okay, tradition 100%, for the win. Tradition will always be correct, because again, we've gone through so many stages. Another thing that I like to point out is that the I believe the Second Vatican Council is the first council to outline that life begins at conception. I believe that was the first council to do that, because the
Probably because
life
of
be,
scientific.
life beginning at conception wasn't a they hadn't the church hadn't discovered that until like 1865, I believe, with one of the popes
Right.
like finally realizing that maybe that was a possibility, and so he made it a sin, so he declared it to be a sin if you got abortion after conception. So like it was fairly recent that like that got instated in the church. So like again, many saints that we love, like it wasn't like they were for abortion. It's just that they didn't know that, and so because of that, like
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, it's fine after these many weeks or whatever, right? And
Like
many
Thomas Aquinas
leftists.
too.
Many
Yeah.
leftists will want to say like, oh no, these saints were for abortion at these stages, but it's like, well, they would have been against it if they only knew the science, right? They just didn't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
like we know it now. So again, have allegiance to the church, not to these not to the traditions, not to all this stuff. Have allegiance to, like, what it's solidified, what the church talks about, but like always have allegiance to, the guidance of Christ that is shown in the church. That's what I would say
Hmm.
when it comes to Vatican II, and always be charitable, because that's really where it all
Yeah.
comes to, being humble and being charitable. That like, yeah, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe they were right on this part or whatever, right? So yeah. Any last
Yeah.
thoughts?
Like I mean, sure, there's probably some things here and there with Vatican II that we could fix or at least work on a more like a community sort of aspect. Like you could work in your parish, I could work in my parish and try to fix some things here and there.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you know, Vatican II itself, if you look at the documents, a lot of people have commented, there um, a lot of the problems that we face today aren't even necessarily Vatican II, but like what came from Vatican II or whatever, like what people did with Vatican
Uh
II. It's
huh.
like not Vatican II itself, but like what people, developed out of it or whatever. So, uh, if that happened, then there's, the opportunity. It only makes rational sense that like, hey, we could do the opposite. Like we could influence our parish and priests to, like more established traditional aspects back into the parish, like altar boys,
Right. Right.
and communion on the tongue and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
for
know.
sure. No, I
But
think
up to
I like
you.
I like seeing that stuff. I like seeing that stuff. Yeah, it's really up to you, you know, like because
Yeah.
I've been in my parish, you know, and I was trying to get a few people that I know that are you know that I'm cool with at my church to start kneeling on the tongue, which they didn't do, right? But then I told them like me and like this other person like we're like, yeah, I mean it's just more, I mean it's a pretty reverent action. I mean that's our king, you know, and they're like, oh okay. And then they
Hmm.
started doing it. So it's like, you know, you just have to talk. You just have to, get connected in your church, you know, which is not hard. You just talk to people, be social, be a normal human being before
Yeah.
all this technology came into place. Just be normal, a normal human being in that sense. Just talk, and then just be like, hey, you know, like you should try this out. Like, oh, why? Oh, well, here are my reasons.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. But like I one of my fascinations is like different liturgies. Like I don't like a lot of people they went to Latin Mass and were like, this is it. And they were like done. Like but me on the other hand, I want to see like all of them. Like all of the liturgies there are. And in my travels, you know, I've realized that kneeling for communion is totally Latin. That's like a totally Latin thing to do. Like the Byzantines, they stand for communion, and the Indian rites, Malankara and Malabar, Syro Malankara, they stand for it. In fact, they even take it on the hands, and they supposedly have been doing that since like the second century or something.
Wow.
So that's why I'm like, there's a little nuance to practices and things like that. Personally, I take it kneeling and on the tongue. Sometimes if I'm carrying my child or whatever, she kneels herself now. But like if I'm carrying a baby or something, sometimes I'll just stand because I don't want to like trip everybody up.
Yeah.
Um, and then like the Byzantine liturgies, like I'll take it standing on the tongue, obviously, because that's like how they do it. That's like the only way they do it. They don't even like have options in the Byzantines. The Byzantines don't even have options. They're like you're gonna take it standing and you can take it on the tongue. There's no other way around it. Uh, I don't know. I recommend people exploring liturgies, different Catholic rites and churches if they can, because you might it'll educate you. It'll definitely like broaden your horizons.
Yeah.
It's
I
it's a
definitely.
good experience.
I was really close to going down the SSPX route and like and
Hmm.
then logically, the state of the conscious route, but or following the natural path of that, I guess, as some people
We
might
don't
put
even
it.
have one around here. I don't even have the option to do it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an option here either, but I saw like a documentary on the Latin Mass and like how like they're really trying to like attack the Latin Mass, and I thought that I my perception was like so like ignorant because I was like, wow, it's an attack against the original mass that it always was, and this new mass, it's an imposter, and I had this
Yeah.
weird perception, and then I'm like, wait, there's the Byzantine mass, there's other liturgies.
Yeah. Yeah.
What perception did I have? I'm like, what the
Yeah,
heck?
it's I don't know. Like I understand tradition and the Latin mass and like the Latin church is kind of like they maybe they've like perfected the sacrifice and everything, like so to speak, like the liturgy itself and like the prayers and everything, like maybe maybe there's something to that, but like at the same time, like the church pre-exists the Latin Mass. Like the church is older than the Latin Mass is, and the church is older than the Bible is, and like I don't know. It's kind of like one of those things. Like um, that's wonderful, and I hope the church never gets rid of it. And there's been plenty of saints that have said really nasty things about what's going to happen if the church ever did get rid of it. But like I don't know. Like it's above my pay grade. I just like liturgy, and you can if you go to Novus Ordo, it's not the end of. There's some Latin onlyists that tell you that's a sin or something, like
Wait,
a
wait,
sin
wait,
to go to
repeat
Novus
what you just
Ordo.
said because you kind of cut out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think it's your other one. Your
No,
other.
I don't have another one in it. It died. Yeah,
Oh, that's why I think. All right,
yeah,
well, it's fine. It's fine. I can still hear you fine. I
yeah.
think.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, as if you speak like in
Okay.
a like more
Okay.
loudly,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, Dang, I forgot what I was even saying.
You were talking about like some people think that like Novus Ordo is
Yeah.
like a sin or something.
Yeah, no, no, yeah. There's like SSPX people I've met, and they're not all like this, but there's like some of them that say that it's like inherently sinful or it's like wrong, it's sinful to even go to Novus Ordo at all. Like it's better not to even go to Mass than to go to Novus Ordo. And I don't know. That's wrong. You
The
know,
fact that
like
they
I'm
just
gonna go
said
to
that the fact that there's people that, if there is even people that say that, that's wrong. Like I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah.
goes
Well,
against
you
the
argue with them. You argue with them. They're like walking thesaurus encyclopedias. Like they have their arguments ready. So you go try it. But
I don't know if I'll try
uh,
it, but no.
yeah, it's just not. You know, like I'm gonna focus on my walk with Christ. You know, and my Novus Ordo parish is pretty excellent. If it wasn't excellent and I had some problems with it, get involved, you know, get involved and try to like, you know, remediate some of the things that you think is uh, not working out. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Right. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, like, I'm still a little shook that that some people do think that like if you go to Novus Ordo instead of a Latin Mass, it's sinful. I mean, like again, I'm not even gonna. I don't want to get too deep into it because I want to move on. But like, that is being disobedient to the canonical rule that like it's your weekly obligation, your Sunday obligation to go to mass. So I just yeah
I don't. I forget what their argument is. They've got a lot to say about it though.
yeah. If they're arguing that like the real presence of Jesus Christ is not there, then like we got a problem in our hands. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the SSPX because like I know they're in communion with the Pope and whatnot. But I saw this Catholic apologetics girl on TikTok, and she was like talking about like the origin of the SSPX, and I was like, oh boy, I was really close to
Yeah,
falling down that lane. Oh boy, so yeah, I
yeah.
was a little shook on that. But
As, I mean, the
yeah,
origin of the SSPX is also why we have the FSSP, which is, you know, pretty safe. Everybody likes the FSSP. The only people that don't like them are the SSPX onlyists or whatever, that think they're like sellouts or something. But uh, I don't know. It's a lot of drama. It's a lot of drama.
yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know what the FSSP is, frankly. So yeah,
That's SSPX that kind of you know, bent the knee to Rome before SSPX started to try to, you know, get back. Uh, I don't even I don't even know. It's like Game of Thrones societies of the Catholic Church. It's all dramatic and just wild and stuff.
just be
It's a
Catholic. Just be
lot to it.
Catholic. Just submit to
Yeah,
Rome,
just
and
be
that's it. It's
Catholic.
that simple. Just submit to Rome. It's that simple. All right. Well, are there any other like looking at the replies that I sent you on Discord? Are there any questions you want to touch on before we? Because we've been going on for a pretty good time, so like we can end it here unless there's something in the.
I mean, I think we talked about a lot of the ones I was interested in. There's a
Uh huh.
couple of like bad post questions that I think we can skip over.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we pretty much covered everything that was on there, surprisingly. I don't know.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Cool. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming on the live stream with me. We had a very good discussion. Very good. Good. I liked a lot of the topics that we talked about. I did not figure we would be talking about what we got into in the yoga pants discussion. But anyways, I always love to talk about that stuff. Anyways, it's really interesting to see what fellow Catholics like to their 2 cents on
Yeah,
that. So yeah,
right.
go everybody that's watching right now, and for those that are watching the replay, go follow Brian on Instagram. His page is Cathoholicism. Like it's a kind of like a joke on alcohol, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it's like being drunk on, you know, like being like dependent on the faith. So I combine Catholicism and alcoholism. Uh,
Yeah. But
something
on
like
this
that.
instance, it's not a mortal sin. So yeah,
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
actually go follow him and check him out. So yeah, definitely go follow him. I have all my socials down in the description. We might do another collab soon or within some time. But yeah, thank you so much, Brian, for coming on, and we'll see you.